Bob, this continues to be one monster of a storm.
Yeah, and it's going to get bigger and badder, too, it looks like, throughout the day tomorrow. I know a lot of people are from the East Coast over here tonight, kind of waiting to see what's happening, which is kind of amazing. You think about it. We are looking at the possibility of a Category 4 hurricane just moving right along the east coast of Florida, which is going to be devastating for them. For us, a different story. You know, it's not going to be nearly as bad here. We're going to have some showers, some bands of rain will come through at times, some tropical downpours, and a possibility at 1 or 2 times in Sarasota, Manatee County to see some tropical storm force winds, maybe up to 40 gusts. We've had that before, though, with storms that have moved on through. Nothing too intense here along our coast, but that could change a little bit depending upon the future motion and movement of the storm. But more and more now that we're looking at it, it still looks like it's going to be a mainly East Coast storm at this point with some residual effects here along the West Coast. 40 to 50% chance now still of these low-end tropical storm gusts as these bands move through, and that's mainly on Friday morning. We'll start to taper off later on the day on Friday. And then Hardee and Highlands County by far will get the brunt of the heaviest storm for the Sun Coast, at least at this point. And the toughest time, as I mentioned, will begin at Thursday night, but more so throughout the day on Friday when we can experience the strongest winds. And they shouldn't be all that terrible. It could down some trees and some branches and so on and so forth, especially inland counties. But we're not looking at any surge, and the tornado threat is really quite low because the tornado threat usually is to the east of the center of the storm, and that's going to be offshore for the most part. We will get these bands of showers that come through, and there's a slight, very slight chance we may see an isolated tornado move on through, but not tonight. Just some light rain possible, and those showers are widely scattered. This is something I showed earlier. This is the longest area I've ever seen in Florida, and for that matter, the United States, under a hurricane warning. It goes all the way from North Miami, right on in through the East Coast, all the way up now to Jacksonville, over 300 miles of warned area along the east coast of Florida. And that is very expensive, folks, as far as loss of revenue from businesses and organizations and companies. They estimate it to be about $1 million per mile. So get that and figure that one out. As far as the watches go, we are under a tropical storm watch, and what I'm looking at is 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, gusts as high as 40 in Manatee and Sarasota, Charlotte, as well as into looks like DeSoto County. Now that means that we'll have that mainly on Friday morning through early part of the afternoon. A bigger wind inland, which can down trees, power lines into Highlands and Hardee County. And as far as the surge goes, because it's moving parallel with the coast, it shouldn't be that intense. There will be some significant surge, however, but not nearly as much as a right angle approaching storm like we saw with Andrew. 81 degrees currently. It's warm. It's muggy. It feels like 87 degrees out there. Winds aren't that bad right now. Northeast at 10. Those winds tomorrow night at this time should be around 20. The high today was hot. 92, 93 is the record. Close to that. 87 is our average. No rainfall to report. And it looks as though we won't see much tonight. A few spotty showers are possible. Temperatures are pretty much warm across the area as a result of that warm tropical air out ahead of Matthew right now. And temperatures into the upper 70s to low 80s here. 80 degrees in Venice, 77 in Lake Placid. Mayaca City at 79 degrees. While the high pressure ridge, the mid-level high, is still driving this to the northwest. Eventually, that is going to pull off to the east. And when that happens, we'll start to see more of a northerly bend to the storm. But until that happens, it's still northwest. So there's still a chance on that cone of uncertainty I showed you that it could be on the western edge of that. So that would make a little bit more rough conditions for us. Just an explosion of storms. I've been watching this for the past hour. And now you can see a well-defined eye, deep convection around the entire system. Yes, this may be going through rapid intensification like we saw down in the Caribbean when it went from a 1 to a 5 in less than, for the most part, 24 hours. And that is still a possibility. However, the Hurricane Center is suggesting a 4 by tomorrow at 8 o'clock, at 1:30, and then making landfall near Cape Canaveral if you follow the center line. But I mentioned if it's on the left-hand side, a lot more harsh conditions here along the west coast of Florida that would be. But for the time being, things are looking pretty good. A lot of the models agree with the fact that it's going to do that and then eventually loop around. Wanted to show you this one graphic before we get to the forecast. This is what we're going to see at the winds. The winds picking up tomorrow. These are gusts up to 24, which isn't too bad. And then by Friday morning, though, 34 miles an hour out of the northwest and up to 43 in places like Highlands County. And then they start to subside somewhat again by Friday. And that wind radius continues to grow. and that means some very harsh conditions along the East Coast. This could be one of the biggest storms I mentioned as far as devastation, destruction goes in Florida's history if it follows right along the coastline there. Northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. Seas will be 2 to 4 feet with choppy conditions out there. And as far as the forecast goes, we are anticipating tides upcoming 258 for a high tide. A low tide will be at 119. Tonight, warm and muggy. A few showers are possible. Tomorrow, expect increasing clouds, high of 88. Still warm and a 40% chance for scattered afternoon storms. Feeder bands moving through on Friday, windy conditions, and then still a bit breezy on Saturday, but looking much better as we head into Sunday and Columbus Day.